Benjamin, I believe, has our next question in the queue. Benjamin says, who are your top 3 playmakers on offense and defense this season for the Irish? And I did grab my pen while you were talking, and I cheated.
I knew the next question was going to be interesting because when Vince grabbed his pen, I was like, okay, here we go. Okay.
I had to be ready.
Buckle up. What's coming next?
Yeah.
Do you want me to? You want to? Since you've already started to put some thought into this, Vince, you want to go ahead and kick it off? And
so
we'll go offensively first, then we'll go defense.
Yeah.
And
offensively, I think we're all gonna. Well, it doesn't matter if they start or not. Frankly, we're just talking about playmakers, and for me, the 3 playmakers for me, the ones I'm excited about making plays with the ball in their hands: Tyler Buckner, Chris Tyree, and Lorenzo Styles. Those are my 3, and like my 3B. Would be Braden Lindsey. Like he belongs in that group, but you said 3. So he's on the outside looking in for me, but I could easily replace him up there with somebody. But those are mine.
I agree with number 1. Tyler Buckner's in my list. Lorenzo Styles is in my list, and my 3rd is Michael Mayer. I know he's a tight end, but he's still a playmaker. And plays aren't always just like, to me, because it's also depends how do you define a playmaker. You define a guy that's going to hit an 80-yard home run. Well, that's not Michael Mayer, right? But when I look at Michael Mayer, I see a guy that's going to be making a ton of plays on 3rd down. He can make people miss. He's going to make some ridiculous catches this year, which we saw glimpses of last year. I think he's their best player. And, unless your best player is a guard or a tackle or something like that, I got to put your best player in that top 3. So I understand why you didn't, because I think you define it a little bit differently than I do, which is kind of what makes it fun.
Yeah.
But for me, it's Mayer's number 1, and then it's Buckner, then it's Styles.
Okay.
But you could, like, to your point though, you could easily put Chris Tyree in there. You could easily put Braden Lindsey in there. Like, that's the thing that I like about this football team is there are playmakers on this team. There is speed on this team. Like, I know we're worried about injuries, and look, injuries with Chris Tyree is a legitimate thing. He was banged up most of last year. He missed most of the spring. I get it. It's fair. Injuries are concerned with Braden Lindsey. I get it. Joe Wilkins, Avery Davis, both coming off major injuries. Logan Diggs coming off a major injury. That's a valid concern about this football team is depth and health.
Yep.
But if they are somewhat healthy and they're going to get Tobias Merriweather on campus here soon. Eli Rarid and Holden Stace are going to be showing up soon. Kane Barong is coming back from an injury. So they're going to be some reinforcement showing up here this fall too, compared to what they had in the spring. And we forget sometimes, their most experienced proven receiver didn't practice this spring, from his concerns about the offense. So this team has talent. It has athletes. Can they stay healthy? And can guys get the most out of their games? Those are the more
coaches get the most out of the players. Like
that's a good point.
I think that's a valid. Now I think that
until we see it.
Yeah, exactly. Is the scheme going to get all those guys involved? Because there's been talent on this team in the past, and they haven't gotten them the ball in the right ways. And
I think this staff will get there.
Yes,
but they've got to show it.
Absolutely.
That's the key. If we're just going to assume it's going to happen, then that makes us fanboys, and that's not us. We can say what we think is going to happen, but then still say, "But now you got to show me, right?" And now you got to prove it. Yeah. And so there's a lot of talent on. I mean, the fact that I didn't put Chris Tyree or Braden Lindsey in my top 3, and you didn't bat an eye, like, dude, you're nuts not having Chris Tyree in there. It's just exactly the point of what we're talking about, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, and as soon as I'm like Michael Mayer, and you forgot about Michael Mayer, it seemed like, oh yeah, but that says a lot about because your first thought is speed.
Yes.
And so you go to Tyree and Styles and Lindsey and Buckner, and that's your first thought. And then my first thought is different.
Making plays, getting first downs.
And it's Mayer. It's right. Yeah. It's what's exciting about this team. What about defense, Vince? I think this one will be a little bit I think this one will be a little bit harder.
This one is harder for me because I think you could go a lot of different directions with quote unquote playmakers. And
I think the number 1 is easy, though. I think we can both agree on that. It's the dude that led the nation in forced fumbles and was top 10 in sacks.
I have Foskey as my number 1.
Can we at least agree on that? He's 1, and then we can figure out 2 and 3.
I have Joseph as my number 2.
Okay.
I think that he's going to be making a ton of plays. I love watching him in the limited amount of time we got to watch practice. I think he's going to make a lot of plays. And now you're telling me he's going to be the punt returner too, playmaker.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
So
I didn't think about the punt return aspect. Okay.
Yeah. So I think Joseph is going to be a dude this year, and I think he's going to be fun to watch. And then, I mean, come on, how could I not have Cam Hart on my list. I am the president
We'll
of
explain why he shouldn't be on your list, but go ahead.
I'm putting him on my list because now I think they're going to go away from him. I don't know if he's going to get a ton of opportunities.
There you go.
Didn't mean to steal your thunder on that one.
No, that's perfect. That's perfect. I love it.
But I just think if there's going to be quarterbacks out there going to be like, I'm going after him. I'm going after 5, and he's going to make them pay for it, and he's going to make plays. And so even if he doesn't get a ton of opportunities, I think the opportunities that he gets, he's going to make those plays. So I got to have Cam Hart on my list. Now, there's 3 or 4 other guys that I think you could easily have on this list because I think the defense is absolutely stacked with playmakers. So I'll let you give your list.
My number 2 is Marist.
Yeah.
And again, this is projecting a little bit, right? I'm projecting forward what I think is going to happen. I think number 2 for me is Marist. I think he's going to be a big-time playmaker for this football team. I do not have Cam Hart on my list. I'm not even going to think twice about putting Cam Hart on my list because the reason is again, it's not the 3 best players. If it was the 3 best players, my list would be completely different.
Interesting.
It would be the 3 playmakers because I don't count locking a dude down as being a playmaker. It makes you a great player. A playmaker is more like Julian Love, who plays off-man coverage and just breaks in the ball all game and breaks up a bunch of passes, picks some off, and all that kind of stuff. Like, I don't think Cam Hart's going to have anywhere close to the production that Julian Love had because they're going to use him so much differently. And he's a different type of player. It's going to be more about, you're like, did Cam Hart play today? Like, oh, yeah, he did. Because you just don't see him because they just avoid him, right? Like, that is dominance, but that's not what I view as the premise of the question. The premise is playmakers. So Marist is number 2. And honestly, Vince, I can't decide between who I want my number 3 to be. It's either going to be Brandon Joseph, and the punt return aspect was really interesting. I didn't think about that. And if he ends up returning punts, then I'm going to put him in there just because that's considered being a playmaker, right? And so at that point in time, Vince, my initial thought was Jason Adamiola because I think Jason's going to make a ton of plays this year.
I had him on my,
But if we're going to go just defense, I'm probably going to go Jason. If you add in the special teams aspect, because then again, you start thinking about, okay, well, Brandon Joseph won't just be making plays in punt return. He'll probably be making plays in kick coverage, punt coverage, some other areas, which only adds to it. Where Jason's just a defensive player, then that's where I would lean towards Brandon. But if we're just talking defense, my first thought was Jason. But I think the angle you took on it is, look, plays are plays, right? Whether they're on defense or special teams. I really like the point you made there, Vincent. So I'm going to then change mine and put Brandon Joseph on there if he's the main punt returner.
Right. That's
a
big if.
If he's not the main punt returner, then I'm going back to Jason Adamiola.
Yeah.
Right?
I see that.
So, but that's a really good point, Vince. Really.